Men of Reddit, what's the most pathetic ridiculous thing another man has done in attempt to assert his dominance over you? I always feel like the guys who refuse to make room for you when walking by in the other direction are trying to assert their dominance and make themselves feel like hot crap. I never understand why people do that. He tried to drink water faster than me. No one drinks water faster than me. No one drinks water like Gaston. Literally last weekend some really drunk dude who I had never once met or interacted with tried to fight me to impress the girls he was with. It was completely ridiculous. And his way of trying to initiate it was just repeatedly body checking me on the dance floor, which I ignored because I thought he was just being drunk and dumb. Turns out one of his friends had to stop him from blindsiding me with a sucker punch to the face, assuming he was able to aim that well. Some people do not mix well with alcohol apparently. I used to attend bar in Milwaukee, and there is nothing that triggers self-conscious whiners more than seeing someone drinking something they don't like. I cannot tell you how many arguments began with some dude, always unsolicited, unprovoked, mind you, feeling compelled to judge and educate other guys about what they're drinking, or not drinking. You drink that PS, you pee and it goes downhill from there. No one cares. Drink what you like and shut up. In junior high I remember this one bully that would get on his tiptoes and bow out his chest like a gorilla and get all in your face whenever he felt threatened. It was such a funny stereotype maneuver. A former coworker, he would just stand in the way and refuse to move. Even if he wasn't in the way he would purposely get in the way. I work in a narrow kitchen so you can imagine how annoying that could be. At one particular moment I was carrying a bulky 20 pounds box and he decided to do that. I pretended to not see him and barreled into him. He fell over and got incredibly mad at me. Started talking about how I have no muscle. It was pretty funny. It was a display of the most fragile masculinity I've ever seen. One time at a house party, a few of us were talking to some of the girls there and one of the guys randomly started talking about how he does MMA. Then another guy joined in and those two started wrestling in front of the girls. I don't think their shirts needed to come off either, but what the frick do I know? Taking your shirt off is proper MMA procedure and culture. Leaving them on could have dishonored their whole family. Flick my man T. Generally guys purposely bumping into you when you walk past them, especially if they're with friends. Then they get real aggressive and act like you intentionally bumped into them. I work in a grocery store and sometimes help unload the delivery trucks, and our delivery comes in on what we call cages. Like a 6-foot cage on wheels, and obviously one that's full of toilet paper will be really light and one filled with 2-liter bottles of juice are the heavy ones. The lift that lowers them from the truck has that patterned metal floor and you have to pull the heavy cages hard to get them off. Now I am 5 feet 8 inches and don't have a lot of weight on me, but I can pull these cages off just fine. But there's a guy who's like 6 feet 2 inches and is always trying to show how strong he is. So whenever I am helping and he's there, he always insists he gets the heavy cages and that I get the little guy cages. Everyone agrees he needs to grow up. Guys like that are great though, because you can just chill and let them do all the annoying work if they feel the need to prove something. Talked about the MBA program at his alma mater was superior to where I was getting my MBA. For clarification, he doesn't have and isn't working on an MBA, but wanted to be sure I knew he was better because he went to a school with a perceived better program. A friend tried to make himself look good in front of his crush by literally putting me in a random chokehold for a laugh. Turns out it was because I was talking to her. I had a girlfriend at the time. We were just talking. It wasn't a chokehold though. It was basically just a headlock. So I decided to correct him. I was fairly oblivious and didn't realize this was a failed alpha move. Creeped the crap out of his crush that he would do that out of nowhere, and she stopped talking to him. Apparently she quite liked him up until that point, so he kinda shot himself in the foot. Was out having a drink. Started chatting to the guy next to me when I learn he, too, is a musician. He then tells me you're not a musician. I find it offensive when people tell me they're a musician when they haven't put in the time and dedication that I have. Okay dude, come down off your ego trip. Christ. I had someone stand on their tippy toes to seem taller when we were talking. So when I was in the 8th grade there was this one kid who hated me for no reason. I was really big for my age. So there was no way this 5 feet 1 inches guy was going to fight me. So he did something so cringy I have no idea what he was going for. I was sitting at lunch with my friends, and this kid walks up to us and spits in my glass of milk and says in a very commanding tone, "Drink." I just stood up and the kid bolted. Got a good laugh out of it with my friend though. Earlier this year my boss asked me to do something and then leaned over me and said, "You are going to do it." He was like literally leaning over me because he was 6 feet 8. Dude acted like a cliche high school bully from an 80s movie and was like 40 years old, so I assume he was at some point. Anyways, he quit. I worked in residence life over the summer at a moderately sized college campus. The pay was good, but there were tons of broken furniture and even more piss-stained mattresses. Anyway, I was good enough at doing this that I became sort of an on-site supervisor. The supervisor would tell us what building we would be evaluating emptying that day, and then I would basically take over as soon as we left. One day, we had a 5-story dorm to go through, and all of the mattresses were due to be replaced. I told the group, there were 7 or 8 of us, that the easiest way would be to form a relay down the stairs. 2 people would go to the rooms on the topmost floor and toss them down the steps to the next level, and then they would toss those down the steps, all the way down until the last 2 people on the bottom would put the mattresses in the truck. And then, every floor, we'd swap off, so people could have the easier jobs. We're moving along ridiculously fast under this system. We cleared out a whole floor in just under an hour. And then the supervisor showed up and told me that, no, everyone needed to carry out their own mattresses because he didn't want lazy people on the team. In other words, he wanted everyone to go to a room on the 5th floor and carry a mattress down 5 flights of stairs to the truck, all through the day. He told us that it was an easy job and then proceeded to make a show of lifting up 2 mattresses on his shoulders and jumping down the half-flight steps onto the landing. He did this 2 or 3 times, complete with loud grunts. To this day, I have no idea how he didn't get injured, and then berated us for being lazy. He didn't make us jump, but he made sure that he stayed to watch us do it the right way. We finished the next floor by the end of the day. When asked about what his hobbies are, he responded with, "Hobbies are for children and single women. I work." Was on a 4-hour flight, in a 2-person row. The guy demanded to have full access to the middle armrest, would push my arm off it if I ever got near it. I was walking to my car after school and this guy getting in his car just yells at me, "You ugly F." Bro, I flipped him off without even looking at him and he yelled B and drove off. How petty do you have to be to tell someone minding their own business that they're ugly? People that shout out of cars are cowards. We once had a candidate come into the interview and legit say he wanted to sit behind the desk because he was going to be asking the questions to decide if he wanted to work with us. I think he'd gotten some bad advice about having confidence. I laughed, but our HR manager flipped her crap. The only time I have ever seen her call security. One guy I know tried to get everyone to whip out their willies and compare sizes, and honestly it came across as one of the most insecure and childish efforts to assert dominance ever, because willy size has nothing to do with dominance. Also, this is the guy when we were getting a house insisted we've all gotta be equals, despite always trying to run things. Maybe he was just a clever gay guy. Had a dude get mad at me for talking to his girl all the time. I was her econ tutor. Was at a party and was given the task of handing out beers to people. This guy flipped a crap, screaming saying he only drank real beer. Dude, it was cold and free. That is the best beer there is. Pee super forcefully directly into the water, so that the lesser males know how powerful my stream is. A guy was mad at me while sitting at a light and was revving his engine. It sounded like he held it at the red line, and there was a big crack sound and smoke started coming out of the front of his car. The dummy blew his engine. That's when you throw your head back and laugh as you slowly accelerate forward in your 2013 Dodge Dart. My neighbor in front of I'm a guy, house had a boyfriend that would literally rip his shirt off and come outside every single time I was in my front yard. It could be 7 AM or midnight, but it wouldn't matter to him. I could be walking to my car and here comes Mr. Globber Jim flexing all around his yard. He would immediately go back inside when I went back inside. This went on for almost half a year until one day I saw him hop into his mega lifted truck and drive away, never to be seen again. He did have pretty sweet pecs though. I would have spent a day fricking with him. Go outside for a while and wait for him to come out. Then just go back in until he leaves. Then do it again. The overly firm handshake is always annoying. I'm not a freak show of strength, but I have a good enough grip that I can get them to back off. You have been visited by the magic exams cat. You'll pass your exams. No need to comment.